Hey guys, it's me, I'm back. I did read 3 books this month, which I wanted to get more done, but I'm honestly not that, upset. I was focusing on something else during this month, so I'm not, angry at myself. I'm actually, really happy that I got these 3 books read. I'm gonna go in order of how I read them, so I read Everything I Never Told You, or I finished this one first. Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng is about an American family in the 1970s, and one of the children goes missing and then is later found dead. And it's about the entire family dynamic. It is very emotional to read. Family is a really important piece of my life, so seeing how Celeste Ng goes into an Asian American family and their dynamic, and it just it felt like she was putting a magnifying glass on a family while also putting a magnifying glass onto your own family. So it it was very difficult at times to read, but it was very easy to read at the same time. There are multiple points where I just caught myself being like, holy shit, she was able to flow from this to that and I didn't even notice it. Or there were moments where I was understanding a perspective that I normally wouldn't have. I was sympathizing with the character that originally I was like, well, I don't feel great sympathizing with this person, but at the same time, I was able to understand where they were coming from, which was it's very hard to do. So I was very happily surprised by this book. I obviously had heard all of the great praise that this book had, but I just kind of stayed away from reading it because I was a bit nervous that I wouldn't like it. I don't know, I just was worried that the hype would be better than the book. But it wasn't. It was really, really good. I like how they showed the failures of this family while also showing the love that this family has for each other. You could see that all these characters were trying so hard to provide things for their family that they didn't have, or to provide things for themselves that they wish that they could give to others. And it's just all this miscommunication furthers this spiral that they have where they want to show their love, but it can't happen the way that they want it to, but they don't know how to communicate anything. I think it was done super effectively. And I also really, really loved the themes of desire. You want something, but you go about it the wrong way. You never can just go for a straight shot of it. Something is always in the way of it. From beginning to end, I was just really in this book. I fell in love with all the characters and I wanted the best for them. So when things went wrong, my heart was torn out every single time. So yeah, this book was everything I never knew I needed. Yeah, so I gave this book 5 stars. I didn't annotate it, but I really wish I did. I think I'm gonna reread this again in the future, annotate it, and use it as a study, because this was so good. I will be reading it again. So I finished Everything I Never Told You in one read, and this one I did the same. So Southernmost by Silas House. This book is about a preacher who, after a flood, takes in these 2 gay men, and so he gets pushed out of the church, and his family starts to fall apart, and so he takes his son, and he goes to find his brother that he rejected for being gay. And so he is on this journey with his son that he is technically kidnapped. It's about family, love, the world, and your place in it, in also relation to God. I really did enjoy the voice that Silas House had. I enjoyed how he framed the world, and how he portrayed God as different through different people's interpretations and different people's beliefs of God. This book was a really nice read. I read it obviously in one day, so it wasn't taxing to read or anything like that. Though there were some problems with the book where I think that it did detract from my overall enjoyment after I was finished. At the very beginning of the book, you have Asher realizing that what he had been believing in was wrong. And then he goes on this road trip later on after he has changed as a person and realizes that his connection to God isn't what he thinks it should be. My main problem with that change and with that character arc is that it seems like the change happened before the book started. You don't see Asher as this hateful man. You don't see him as this guy who has negativity in his heart. So when he is referring to this guy from the past that he was as being negative and hateful and using God as a weapon and such, it felt weird because you hadn't seen him do that. You hadn't seen him do any of that. From the very beginning, he's already this character who realizes that what he's done is wrong. When I was going into the book, I thought I would be seeing this man and his son changing their opinions on life throughout the book, which I thought was going to be really fun. But it happened right at the very beginning, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. But I think it would have been more compelling if we had seen the change from the beginning to the end. I think the character would have been a bit more dynamic. And there were changes that he did go through, but I think that they weren't as consequential as, like, his worldview changing. So I would have rather have had that throughout. The other thing that did bother me a bit is that the entire book is about him going to make amends with his brother, taking along his son on the journey so that his son knows the world a bit better. But we don't see his brother until, like, 60, 70 pages before the book ends. And his brother was a really interesting character too. So I was a bit, like, disappointed that we didn't see more of their interactions. It just, like, you saw the guy and then they went back home and it was over. So I was, like, a bit disappointed because I wanted to see the struggle of him trying to make amends with his brother after he betrayed him in a very intimate way. So I was a bit, like, disappointed. There's a lot where they're kind of just sitting around until they find the brother, and that's totally fine. But it just felt like it was losing itself at those points. Like, it was trying its hardest to find the brother, like the book was, and then it rushed into the brother bit and then rushed into the ending, which, like, kind of sucked because it just made the pacing a bit weird. But the voice in the book was really, really nice. I really enjoyed the way that he went about things, like I said earlier. There was one line in particular that he wrote that I was like, oh my goodness, yes sir, that is everything that I've ever wanted to be put into words. And it was, all Asher can think is what he's always thinking, that he has to memorize everything about this moment, because soon Justin will be taken from him. He's gotten to the point where he can hardly enjoy anything without mourning its loss while it's happening. And I was like, that's fucking beautiful. Thank you, Silas House. If not for the book, but for that specific 2 sentences. That's, like, a feeling that I have a lot of the time, and this book has that feeling throughout it where you just feel as though everything is slipping out as it's happening from them. So yeah, the voice was really good. The character dynamics was interesting to see, but there were, again, things that knocked it down. So I gave it a 3. I just wasn't over the moon. I won't probably be reading this again, so while I did enjoy it, it's not gonna be, I'm not gonna be thinking about it probably years down the line. So yeah. And then the last book I finished was Whiskey When We're Dry. And I'm not gonna really talk about it here because I read it with my dad, so me and my dad are gonna be reading it together. But I just wanted to let you know that I did finish this, and a video will be coming probably within the next month or so, whenever my dad's free. But I really enjoyed this book, so I am so happy that it's, well, I'm happy that it's finished, but at the same time, I really want to reread it again. I would really recommend reading this. I'm not going to say anything more, but yeah, those are the 3 books. Next month, I'm going to be reading a bit more. I have a couple of reading vlogs kind of set up for myself, like I've kind of planned them, so I'm going to do those. Halloween spooky season is my favorite time of year, so I'm going to be doing that. I think that's everything I needed to kind of tell you. I hope you guys had a really nice September. I will be back soon for more videos and such. Yeah, have a good spooky season.